All right, I think we are live now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to SDAF 2020, and more specifically, welcome to our Real Voices Q&A. This summer's film program was really interesting, really exciting, through this online instruction in these times. And so I want to introduce you to this summer's students. And we're going to be doing a brief Q&A with our filmmakers. And to start off, we're not joined by we are missing our coordinator, Real Voices coordinator, Frank Howley today. But he is missed in the conversation and was a very essential part of the program, as always. So hi, Frank, from the internet. So yeah, I wanted to introduce you. My name is Paulo Zuniga. I'm the Real Voices instructor for this summer, and it was a great privilege to work with these students. I kind of posed the sort of idea that this was more of a laboratory than sort of an instructional classroom, right? I learned as much about each one of the students, and they made some incredible and very powerful films, and I'm excited. If you have not done so, I highly encourage you to take a look at their films and support, please. So yeah, if we can just go around and introduce yourselves, just your name and the title of your film would be great. If you want to start us off, start with Alan, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Hi, my name is Alan Ding. I'm the director of Limitless, and this film is about skateboarding and its benefits and the freedom that it brings that may be hidden just from the casual observer.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. Let's go with Reagan.
Hi, my name is Reagan Pendarvis. I'm the director of Junipero Serra, which talked about the name change at my high school.
Great. Let's go with Brandon.
I'm Brandon Ma, and I directed The Gold Mountain, which was about my grandfather after he moved to America.
Excellent. Thanks, Brandon. Let's go with Andrea.
Hi, my name is Andrea Beck. I'm the filmmaker behind Snail Mail, a film about pen paling and sending letters.
And Sierra.
Hi, I'm Sierra Millard, and my film was Dancing with Myself, which is a film about how the Dance Dance Revolution community is coping with COVID.
All right, thanks, Sierra. Haley?
Hi, my name is Haley Jose, and my film Power Unified is a film about my classmates sharing their experiences with racism and struggles growing up in a predominantly white high school.
Hi,
Isabella.
Hi, my name is Isabella, and my film was United, and I documented the different perspectives regarding the splitting of the United Methodist Church over LGBTQ issues.
Thank you. And Angela?
Hello, my name is Angela Rodriguez. I'm the director of Inches from COVID, and my film focuses on the impact that COVID has on essential workers.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So I wanted to just kind of, this is more of a conversation, and I wanted to kind of get a sense of how you're feeling now that you've completed the film. But before then, I wanted to ask a couple of you, maybe Sierra, I was hoping if you could talk a little bit about what kind of like the inspiration for the film, and if you knew right off the bat that that's the film you wanted to make, or kind of how that came about.
Okay, yeah. So kind of the inspiration for the film was more than anything me missing the community that I have come to love over the past few years in playing Dance Dance Revolution. And so I know that I kind of wanted to kind of in a way give back to that community that it's hard to connect with in an era where we're not physically meeting in person, we're not seeing each other at arcades. So it was kind of, I wanted to give back to the community that I come from, and I also wanted to highlight, that it's still thriving and it's still, happening and everybody's still involved.
Excellent. And how about we hear from Andrea, if you could speak a little to your film and kind of the development that took place for that.
Hi, so yeah, I know Paulo knows this too, but when I first started, I had a lot of ideas floating around and I couldn't really choose because there was just so much that I wanted to document and I wanted to share. But I thought about experiences that are really unique to me and that you can't really find elsewhere, and that's where pen paling came from. Like I mentioned in my film as well, I do like regularly send letters and pen pal with people, and so that's where the film really came from. I just wanted to highlight and share why we do it and like the appeal behind sending letters.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to sort of the inspiration for your film? I know, Reagan, your film, there was some sort of concern there with the sort of the subject matter in pertaining to your school and kind of the controversy that I believe is still ongoing. I wonder if you could speak to that and kind of, and also, have you shown the film to anybody from school?
Yeah, so my film, I got my inspiration from that because last year I had just taken AP History, and seeing as everything going on in the world with racism and how all these statues are pulled down, I just wanted to explore the history behind Junipero Serra and see what my peers thought about him representing our school. So I made my video talking about that, and the school still hasn't changed the mascot completely yet. They're still in the process of doing all that, but I have showed my film to some of my friends, and there's still some debate about it, even though our school is online.
Okay, interesting. And yeah, it's a very, a lot of these films obviously are very timely in their subject matter. And I also wanted to mention that, the students did an incredible job in terms of the production for their films. They were basically on their own. The format was online teaching. And so unfortunately, we weren't able to help them out during the production process and help them shoot their film and edit their film and so forth. So it was all done online. But I think you all did an incredible job, and I'm very proud of you all, and you should be proud of the work that you've accomplished. Alan, yours was a little different in terms of it was a little, I guess, like lighter and inspirational in the subject matter. And can you tell me a little bit about kind of how that came about, rather than focusing on some sort of a social theme of sorts? You kind of more focused on this limitless idea. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so I recently picked up skating during quarantine through my friends, and I thought it was a super interesting sport that not that many people knew about, and there was kind of this negative stigma that surrounded skating. So I wanted to address just the public perception of skating and how it's actually this beautiful and therapeutic sport. And I've also watched Minding the Gap, which was one of my inspirations for creating this film. I thought it was a really good documentary. So I just wanted to kind of offer my own unique take on that.
Excellent, thank you. And Haley, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to kind of the inspiration for your film as well.
Yeah, so obviously with like everything right now, it's really apparent about all the racial injustices there are in the world. And during quarantine, there was this Instagram account called Black and PUSD, and students were posting anonymous experiences of racism that they had at their schools and stuff. So I was really inspired by that, about how many stories there were. There are over 500 plus stories, and I wanted to make sure, these stories were heard. And that was the main inspiration about my film, is just making sure that people were able to share their stories and experiences.
Thank you. And Isabella, I'm curious about your film as well. It's really powerful, and I was hoping you could speak to how you approach that in terms of interviewing your subjects for your film, and whether any of them have seen it.
Regarding like LGBTQ issues, like I don't know, it's very taboo in like my community because there's just like so many different opinions, or like there's like a more conservative perspective in like the more traditional Koreans as opposed to like more liberal perspective in like other individuals. So like I try to be very careful in my selection of people that I chose to interview, in that like if I documented their opinion, like that it wouldn't come around and affect their personal lives, because that was something I really wrestled with. Like I didn't want like my film to like have any adverse effects on these individuals and their lives, because in the end, like there are very like extremist perspectives in the I knew that there were very extremist perspectives in like the group of people that I was planning to interview, so I had to like kind of go around that and try to choose people and like take out parts that I could like actually. Yeah. And as for whether they have not watched it yet, but I plan to send it to them.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I remember we had several conversations about the being sensitive to the subject matter and the interview subjects as well. And Angela, can you speak a little bit to your film and how you approach where your parents are in your film, and were they supportive of being in the film, or how did you approach that in terms of the interview process, and was there anything that you kind of like learned about them through that process?
Yeah, at first I had to work around their schedule because my dad is working live on site in the VA San Diego hospital. So I had to actually film his parts on the weekends and visit his workplace then. And then with my mom, I had to do her parts in the afternoon. So I definitely learned a lot about them as I was viewing them and their daily routine and their working habits.
Okay. Have they seen the film?
Yeah, they've seen all of the rough cuts, actually.
Oh, cool. And Brandon, can you speak to your film and how you approach that in terms of how you came across your grandfather's story and how you went about interviewing him?
So, over the quarantine, I've been like getting more interested in learning about history. So, I figured I could interview someone who like lived through some of that.
Okay. And then how many interviews did you do with your grandfather?
I did like two or three interviews with him, so that I could get all the parts of his story.
Excellent. Has he watched it?
I sent like each version to him so that he could watch it.
Cool.
And he helped me with the which parts to keep and which not.
Okay. So this is a question for everyone. What is something that surprised you that you've either learned about yourself or filmmaking process in general through making these films? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to jump in.
In my film, as I was interviewing the people and seeing everyone's opinions, I was really surprised at how diverse the opinions were, because a lot of people had a lot of different takes on how they felt about Junipero Serra based on their background, and a lot of other people had different opinions on how they want to address the name change. And I thought it was just really interesting to see how many people thought of different ways for that issue.
Anyone else? Something surprising you've learned about yourself or?
This one's a little more shallow, but in my film, like I was in my own film and like having to edit through all of the cuts and like hearing your own voice over and over again just kind of sucks. And I know that's like one of the more shallow parts that I learned about myself in general, but I feel like when you make a film about something that matters to you, it really makes you question and like reflect about why it matters so much and how it's like come to matter to you in that like way. And I thought that was really cool to discover about myself.
In a way you become a little precious about kind of what to edit out and kind of what to keep, right? Especially I could imagine, especially if you're in the film yourself. Anyone else have anything to add in terms of the what you learned about yourself or through the film itself?
Something I learned is a lot of times like people don't like talking about like racism and stuff, and like it's a very taboo subject and people get uncomfortable. But I interviewed so many people and everyone was like willing to share everything about me to me about their experiences. And the more like I learned about everyone's experiences, the more I got to connect with them in a really deep level. So I made so many friends through this film, which I'm very grateful for.
Thanks, Haley. And with that, I mean, it's also interesting that you were able to make these connections and contact your film subjects virtually, right? I mean, it was all kind of, contacting people through email and then setting up these interviews, whether they were, if they're family members, maybe within your home, but also several of you did interviews virtually. And I'm wondering if you can all speak to the experience of this virtual format during this time and how that affected your film and whether you feel it helped or really kind of like hindered this film you wanted to make.
So I'll come and answer that. So for me, and in the terms of interviewing at least, it was very interesting because one of my film subjects was my brother, who obviously lives in the same house as me. So I was able to just interview him and force him to be interviewed. No, not really. I asked permission, but I was able to interview world-class people who live really far away. But because it was online, I didn't have to think like who is in my area and who can I interview. And also it's really hard to get footage of something that is in a place that's closed, right? So I can't film a lot in arcades because the doors are padlocked and there's posts in the doors and notices on the walls. So it was definitely very difficult because I felt like I had to go to other places to get footage and content.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to speak to this sort of virtual format and kind of the limitations and how you worked around those in some way?
I think for me, my film relied really heavily on interviews. I interviewed 4 people, and some of them didn't even live next to me, so it was really a struggle trying to kind of do it all over Zoom. But I think one of the benefits was that, I don't know if it was because of the virtual aspect, but I felt like people were really able to open up to me. And I think I got a lot of really good responses, maybe because it was over Zoom, but people were really eager to kind of share their experience with skateboarding and how that's influenced their identity.
Thanks, Ellen. Anyone else?
I think the virtual format really challenged accessibility. I feel like part of going online has made things more accessible. Like this year, it was my first time trying filmmaking, and having everybody support and having the support system, even though we've never really met each other in person. It's like everybody was so kind and helpful, and you build a connection even if it's not in person. And like Sierra and Alan said, you can interview people who maybe don't live near you, and it really challenged me personally to think outside the box in terms of how I could develop film and how I could develop the story in a way that connects not only locally but in a more global aspect.
Definitely. I mean, the interesting thing there, right, that you're making a film about pen paling and sort of analog handwritten letters and mailing them out, and yet you're kind of restricted to interviewing through this digital platform, right? It's kind of ironic. Anyone else want to share about how this sort of virtual format affected their film and the challenges, or kind of how you worked around that? I mean, Isabella, I know that you actually sat down with your subjects, right?
Yeah, I was actually really surprised that they were willing to sit down with me, because this was in the thick of COVID, so everyone was very fearful and everything. But the fact that they were so accepting to let me into their homes and their workspaces so that I could film maybe a better shot than if we did it over online. I was really, and I was yeah.
Excellent. One thing, I mean, we've talked about this sort of the online virtual learning aspect, and there was a lot of consideration in terms of whether the program should continue during this time, right? And whether we should have Real Voices for this summer. I wonder if each of you could speak to the importance of having the program during this pandemic and how that might impact, how you feel that impacts the community, our local community, and kind of to continue with the program.
I can answer kind of my own little opinion
Yeah.
on that. I think that really above all, filmmaking is an art, and I feel like art has never in the history of the universe really has ever been put on pause. Obviously, art has been neglected and is underappreciated in a lot of culture, but art has never really stopped. You see art going back to the ancient times, and I think that to let something which is a major pandemic, but to let something stop art and to prohibit art is I feel like that's just an ultimate sin of sorts. So I think that even though the films look different and they don't look maybe exactly like traditional films because you have interviews over Zoom and more found footage, archival footage, I still think that it's important to express the soul of art, the heart of art, regardless of whether or not a lot of our options are being kind of stopped and locked down by COVID.
That's excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else?
I just wanted to speak to why I'm super glad that this program persisted during the pandemic, because I think, like Sierra said about how impactful art is and everything that is very powerful with filmmaking, I think since the pandemic closed everything down and it kind of stopped a lot of people's opportunities to do things over the summer, this was kind of a really great chance for us to do something impactful while everything else was closed down. And I think that was very important for everything going on.
Thanks, Reagan. Angela, I'm hoping you could speak to your film in terms of, through this program, you were able to create this film, and it's obviously a very timely film. How do you think this film kind of the sort of the importance of this film kind of permeates into the community and impacts the community, especially through the film that you've made?
I think it's a very important story to tell because a lot of us are currently and probably still in quarantine, but we don't really see what it's like for workers who are still actually there and experiencing COVID on site. And I feel like it's such a serious fear for a lot of these workers to actually get this virus. So a lot of the people who are still indoors don't really know how that's like. And I thought that telling this story would help bring that experience to light.
Yeah, definitely. With that, in terms of sort of the us continuing the program during this pandemic, if you could think about your films and one takeaway that you hope the audiences learned from your movie, what would that be? Let's go around. Let's start with Alan. So, what would you consider an important takeaway for your audience?
Yeah, so I think going back to that negative stigma or perception of skating, a lot of people will judge skating and skaters for being kind of bad people or dropouts or stoners or people who don't really do anything with their lives except just skate. And I think it's really important to not just for skating, but not to judge something based on what you see or what other people tell you. And that skating is actually a really beautiful sport that, especially during this pandemic, I think can help with a lot of mental issues and emotional struggles that people are going through. And yeah.
Alan, did you have experience shooting skate videos prior to making your film?
I did not really. This was my first time kind of filmmaking in general and shooting skate videos. But in these past few months since the documentary, I've been doing a lot more of helping my friends shoot skate footage. So I think the documentary really helped with my filmmaking abilities and helping my friends shoot their own mini skate edits.
Very cool. Thank you. Reagan, what is one takeaway that you would hope the audience learns from your film?
So for my film, I think there are two major takeaways. The first one being I want the community to know to be mindful of others' opinions, because with this topic, it's like, it seems on the surface like it's just a minor name change, but a lot of people had like deep personal connections with their opinions. And I think it's very important to just be mindful of how others think and how their backgrounds affect how they feel about certain topics. And then another takeaway I'd say is to make sure you do research and like know the history behind certain things, so you're informed and educated on what you believe in.
Definitely, yeah. Andrea, the takeaway for your audience?
I feel like my film is a lot lighter in subject matter. So honestly, I just say like pen paling hasn't died yet, and it's just a really nice and traditional, I'd say, but also really new. That didn't make sense, but it's just a really refreshing way of communication, and I think everybody should give it a try someday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to. It made me excited to write letters, which I haven't done in a very long time. Even just notes, it's the idea has sort of like, been shelved, and that's what I really appreciate about your film, that it kind of brings us back to this nostalgic sort of act of communicating through writing letters. Brandon, could you speak to what might be a takeaway that you hope the audience learns from your film?
I think one major takeaway from my video is like, even when there's like, a lot of obstacles in your way, you can like find success. Because my grandfather went through all the trauma from the living in China during World War II, but he still found success in having all his kids go to college without any debt.
Yeah, it's a very powerful example, right, of the immigrant story and kind of overcoming so many obstacles to find your success and whatever that means for you, right? For your grandfather, it was to send all of his children and all of his grandchildren to school, right? And that was seems it comes across in your film as that meaning the world to him to sacrifice everything just for that, which is something that many people can relate to. Sierra, can you speak to the takeaway for your audience?
Yeah, I think that in general, I would like the audience just to see that, life can continue. Obviously it's different. And to use a phrase that's very popular is, the new normal. And just that, while community is throttled by this, it doesn't have to stop. And, you can still have human connection and you can still have fun together, be it virtual, and just it's kind of a tale of hope, that yes, life can continue.
Definitely, yeah. You can still make films. You can still have a film festival online, right? Haley.
One thing I would like people to take away is just the importance of listening and like even acknowledging people's stories really makes a huge difference. And also, empathy is a huge thing that I feel like a lot of people are forgetting, that we need to have empathy for everyone.
Yeah, we had such an array of narratives this summer and every summer. That's for me personally, that's one of my favorite things, and one of my favorite programs is Real Voices program for that reason, that it really speaks about the community voices and how diverse they all are, but yet we all have a shared experience, right? And we all kind of can empathize with where these stories are coming from. Isabella, can you speak to the sort of takeaway that you would hope the audience gets from your film?
Yeah, so for me, I feel like mine was more of like a general takeaway that like there's still these important issues that were kind of pushed out of the way because of this pandemic that we were in. But like for me, I felt like it was kind of important for the audience to know that like these issues are still there and we need to kind of like bring them back into the limelight, even in the midst of this pandemic, because they're very important to like discuss. So yeah.
Is Isabella, just to follow up, is your audience, as you were making this film, did you think about the audience being the church itself, or sort of those looking in from the outside?
I felt like it was both because, well, for one, I feel like a lot of, I don't know if it's just me, but like as for my church, like I feel like there's definitely more of like a conservative, like almost like anti-LGBT sentiment that's like it's like a consensus, but like people don't really speak out on it. So I wanted to show these more like liberal perspectives. And for like those outside looking in, I wanted to show like more of like show that there's like a spectrum of opinions regarding this issue in like my community.
Thank you for that. And Angela, I know you spoke a little bit to this as well, but in terms of sharing the film with the community, however large that might be, what do you hope would be a takeaway from your film?
I wanted the film to kind of be an appreciation film because it takes a lot of courage for these workers to actually go to their workplace and be so near like the virus basically, especially because I've experienced it firsthand with my dad and how he works so near a hospital. So he's really exposed to the virus. So I wanted the film to be able to show that.
Okay. I mean, I think it does, you know, and it's a very cinematic documentary, and it really kind of, you have a way of building up this sort of anxiety of what I would imagine is to show up to work during this pandemic at a hospital, nonetheless. I just have a couple more questions for you, and I'll open this up for everyone who wants to kind of speak to it. But is there something that surprised you about yourself or the filmmaking process as you made this film that was maybe unexpected?
I think that I was surprised by how many things that I didn't really know about the filmmaking process because I have been in a lot of classes in school and have done my own personal projects. But from this program, I learned a lot more techniques that I could have used and in my previous projects, like stuff about the camera and the recorders. So I think I learned a lot.
That's great. Yeah, we kind of threw you all into the deep end, and then with some audio and camera equipment, and you all did an excellent job, of course. Does anyone else want to speak to kind of something that might have been unexpected for you through this process? Either technically, as you know, through the filmmaking and development process, or you personally in terms of the story you wanted to tell?
I feel like this is a bit more superficial. It's not really as deep. But something that surprised me is set up like 6 microphones when you're going to record something, because 3 of them you're going to like forget to turn on, 2 of them are going to be like weirdly distant, and then 1 of them is going to be good. And it basically, and to kind of expand on that, is just be prepared and be ready to refilm stuff, reshoot stuff, go back and change stuff, and like don't be married to your original ideas, because a lot of times you're going to have to abandon them to do something in a better way. And it's kind of this process of letting go and growing towards something bigger, in both very simplistic ways, like, oh, I got to cut this shot out, it's just not it, or in kind of major ways, like, this is not the direction of the film that I want to follow.
Right. There's always something, dead batteries, microphones dying on you, forgetting a cable, all sorts of fun stuff.
Hey.
Does anyone else want to share their experience and something that might have surprised them? Okay, so I guess my final question is, what's next for you? We're screening the film at this festival, and hopefully, with Sadaf and Frank, we're trying to look at other opportunities, right, and get your film out there as well. They all definitely deserve it. But you personally, what is your next step as a filmmaker? Are you sort of contemplating new ideas? Are you working on something? Just want to get a sense of where you're at. Alan, are you? I know you said you were starting to film a couple of things for your friends.
Yeah, so I think this whole experience has made me more confident to go out there and kind of just film footage for my friends, edit them into videos. I want to make more maybe like mini edits for YouTube, Instagram, stuff like that. It's not, I'm not necessarily going to go apply to film school, but definitely something that I can take with me, and just to be able to be confident knowing that I'm able to tell a story and just rely on those skills I learned.
That's great. Anyone else? Reagan, what are you working on right now?
So right now, I'm not really doing anything, but next semester, I'm going to be taking my third year of my video production class. And since it's my last year, I know my teacher is going to offer a lot of scholarship opportunities for filmmaking. And with the experience and all the techniques that I've learned from this program, I'm going to try and apply that to future films, because my films for the past previous years were more like comical films, but I'm definitely going to try and start making more serious films that will have an impact.
Excellent. And if you're not making films, that's totally fine. This is one step in many other creative outlets that I'm sure you have in your life. So if you're not working on a film, like what are you currently involved in? Andrea?
Well, I haven't really done a lot of filmmaking since the program has ended, but I do know that I feel a lot more comfortable with using editing software and cameras and equipment in general. Pen paling, that's something that I do continue with because it's just always been a routine in my life since I started. Besides that, school has kind of just taken over my life as well. And it's been really cool to see how the stuff I learned through this program has opened up opportunities for me. Recently, there's been this club at my school called the Project, and it's we make videos, and I've been involved in that as well. Maybe not so much in the filmmaking side, but being able to be involved in something that I like to have more knowledge on and experience has been fun.
Excellent. Thank you. Brandon, what are you up to these days?
So I'm also going into my third year of video production, like Reagan is, and so recently I've been trying to since I learned more about editing during real voices, I asked more ideas for videos I could make in my video production class.
Okay. And Sierra?
Yeah, so I'm taking a cinema class at the local community college, just on the side, which is a lot of fun. And also, I've been making videos just to document kind of what is going on in my life, and they're mostly just private, kind of visual diaries of sorts. But it's been a lot of fun, and I have a lot of fun creating kind of a scrapbook of sorts of my life so that I can look back on it in the future and see, what really my life was like at that point through a medium that I believe is really powerful, which is film.
Thank you, Sarah. Haley?
Yeah, I've actually started a YouTube channel, so I've been making videos mainly for myself as
Oh, that's awesome.
a hobby and stuff. And also I've been able to use my skills that I've learned through editing to do little projects for my school. We started a podcast, so I've been editing that, and it's been really fun.
Very cool. Isabella, what are you working on? Are you just focused on school or making anything?
Well, at the moment, I have to work hard on my college apps, so I haven't had time for anything much really. So, but once time frees up past January or February, I definitely want to try diving back into filmmaking because I had a lot more fun than I thought I would because yeah, it was just really fun to like shoot and edit.
Whoops, sorry. That's one of my favorite aspects as well, is to edit. Angela, can you tell us what you're up to these days?
I also feel the same way. I've been really busy because of college applications, so I haven't really had much time to do video projects lately. But I'm hoping to learn more about like filmmaking in
Excellent.
college.
All right, well, thanks everyone. Thanks for everyone out there. It's kind of weird to just be talking to your screen, but I mean, obviously I'm so happy to see everyone here for the Q&A, and those out there on Facebook and on SADAF page. Hello from the digital world. Please check out the Real Voices program if you haven't done so already, with all the other excellent SADAF 2020 film selections. It's one of my favorite festivals. It's an incredible festival for many reasons, including this Real Voices program that I'm a big fan of. Thank you to all the filmmakers. Thank you to Frank for all of your help, and the rest of the SADAF team. And yeah, let's say goodbye. Thanks, everyone.